Dear friends and opera lovers, welcome to Prelude, an interview series about opera produced by Atelier d'Excellence for educational purposes. Today's episode is supported by the online blogger community 360 of Opera. Its founder, Eugenia Fortezza, joins today the panel of interviewers. Welcome, Eugenia. Very nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. So today's event is a female event, actually, as we can't have Sunny Boyd Ladla for the moment, at least with us. My alter ego, as I say, in AdE. And we have a very, very special guest, American soprano, Miss Latonia Moore, as we called her, Italian opera's new tour de force. Hello, Latonia. Welcome to Prelude.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
We are very excited. I mean, after watching myself and my Eugenia, she said also Porgy, we are so excited to get to know you better today after hearing your exquisite singing in this performance. And
Yeah, so to start, we would love to know what were your first musical influences and when does opera make an entrance in your life?
First of all, again, thank you so much for having me. And it was really crazy to see that excerpt like that, because a lot of times I don't watch myself sing all the way through. But the really awesome part was seeing all the people behind me just now singing and just looking at their faces, just so fantastic because they were so into it. And so that brings me to Porgy. Coincidentally, it was the first opera I ever attended. Was in 1995 at the Houston Grand Opera. And at the time, I was doing classical music, like in high school with in the choir, but not opera. But I was also singing jazz. So when we went to go see Porgy and Bess, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, this jazz opera is so super cool. But I was still just more a chorus singer for classical music and doing jazz as a soloist, like big band jazz. I was doing some Gershwin, Duke Ellington, Cole Porter, stuff like that. So when I got to college, I went as a focus for jazz. jazz vocal performance. But no matter what kind of vocal performance you do, you have to take classical voice lessons. So I went into my classical voice lessons and the teacher said, I think you are an opera singer. And I said, no, I don't think so. I said, I remember, because the first piece of an opera I'd ever seen was when I was 13 on TV. And I saw a clown and he had a knife in his hand and he stabbed somebody. And then somebody looked like they come from the audience walking in and he stabbed him too. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on here, but I changed the channel. And then a few weeks later, I'm looking and then I see what I think is a Chinese woman and another Chinese woman and a little kid. And they're standing there doing nothing. Niente, you know? And I said, this is crazy. I changed the channel. Of course, the first thing I saw was Pagliacci with Placido Domingo, and he was killing Teresa Stratas. And the second one was Madame Butterfly, the production from the Met, you know, but I didn't know. So the teacher said, I think you're an opera singer. I want you to try it for 1 semester. And if you love it, then you'll know that it's what you should do. The opera we were doing was Pagliacci. Okay, so I was in the chorus as a little villager, Italian villager, watching the Commedia dell'arte. And I was fascinated. I thought it was fantastic. And although at the time I believed myself to be a better jazz singer than opera singer, and maybe I still am, I knew it's what I wanted to do. I could feel it in my heart that it was for me. So I immediately changed to opera and I switched teachers, went to the best teacher, and that was it from there in Texas. And after that, I moved up to Philadelphia, up to the East Coast, and started doing competitions and went to school here in Philadelphia at the Academy of Vocal Arts. Yeah, I just took off from there. So, but I'll tell you, my first foray in classical music was before I actually got into school. My sister Yolanda, she did jazz and classical music too. And she would bring books from school and I taught myself how to sight read, you know, and how to read the music, how to play notes on the keyboard, everything. So that was pretty much my story and how I ended up getting into opera, I guess.
I love it. Yeah.
Did anyone from your family did music? Anybody from your family, like your parents, maybe?
Everybody in my family is musically inclined. My father and my mother both can sing. Neither one of them sing opera, but my mom's voice is operatic. Like I vaguely remember when I was a little girl being in church with my sisters, and my mom got up and sang "How Great Thou Art," the church hymn, you know, and it was beautiful, but she sang it operatically. And so we were laughing and we would giggle, we're like, because we came from a gospel church, you know, like, you know, down home Southern Baptist gospel. And so to hear her singing like that, we were laughing. But look at me now, you know, I would never laugh now because this is what I ended up being. So I think that's where I got my voice from. It's from my mom and her mom. But my oldest sister, Sonia, she also is an amazing singer. And she was with the rapper MC Hammer on tour for the Too Legit to Quit. Hey, hey.
Yeah.
That was her. She was the girl singing, hey, hey.
Oh, wow.
So she got to go on the world tour and then she formed a couple of bands in Texas and toured around the country. I mean, just fantastic. And everybody's amazing. Everybody's a musician.
Great
That's wonderful. Yeah.
So we'll go back to 2000 where you won the Met Council auditions.
Yes.
However, your talent came to international attention a little bit later when you replaced last minute Violetta Urmana as AdE at the Metropolitan Opera, making very great impression there. Could you please share with us how did you prepare for this big moment all the previous years, and what would you advise young singers regarding this jump-in experience?
Okay, you know, I really have spent half of my career as the Einspringer, jump in kind of singer, you know, replacement for somebody because they got pregnant or, you know, they couldn't do it or something happened, you know. So this happens very often. And no matter what, you have to always be prepared, right? Well, when I was there at the Met covering in 2012, I was only covering and I was never scheduled to do any shows. And it was my first Met contract. And it was the only job I had for the whole season. Actually, I didn't have anywhere to live. And I was sleeping on the couch of the world-renowned tenor, Michael Fabiano. So I was homeless and sleeping in his living room. And I was covering Violetta, who was, oh my gosh, she was a beautiful Aida. And toward the end of the run, she started to fall ill. So by this time, by the way, I had already sang Aida at Covent Garden. I'd done new production in Hamburg. I'd done a few Aidas. We got to the 6th show of number 7 and she canceled. And instead of putting me on the stage, they flew in Sandra Radvanovsky from Chicago or LA, wherever she was performing. And she came in and it was her role debut at the Met as Aida. And she was fantastic. And I was mad. Okay. I was pissed off because I was just like, I'm sitting here, I'm capable of doing it, but they had to fly someone else in. Well, Peter Gelb has always maintained, he's like, no matter what, if a star cannot perform, we will find a star to replace that person. And I was not that yet. And so I had to just eat it and understand. I was upset. I was just sitting around like, oh my God, am I ever going to get to sing? You know, this was a crazy season. So the very next day, the next night, Thursday night, I get a call from the rehearsal department and they're like, hey, you need to really call us back. Because, you know, I saw it was the Met and I'm like, you go to voicemail. Man, y'all are not letting me sing. This is bullshit, you know. Sorry, but it was, okay. So, you know, I checked my message. He's like, you need to call me back. He said, Peter Gelb has decided to put you on for Saturday afternoon for the matinee and for the broadcast. It will be on the radio. So let us know if you need anything. Bye. See you Saturday. I was like, freaking out, yo. I was acting so silly like a little girl. Oh my God. I was like, this is amazing. And then I was, you know, scared shitless, basically. I was like, oh my God, here we go. So it was a day and a half later, almost. And I get to the makeup chair in the morning, that morning at 11 a.m. And I'm sitting there going, you're going crazy. I'm so excited. I see the whole cast. Oh, by the way, just about the actual cast, which is Marcello Giordani, Stephanie Blythe, James Morris, especially Marcello, Stephanie, and even the great Aprile Milo, they spoke up about the fact that I didn't get to sing that other performance. They believed in me. They believed, you know, they were just like, she's capable of doing this. You have to let her on. You have to put her on. And so they were advocates of mine. You know what I mean? And I appreciated it a lot. You know, so I get there that morning and I'm so excited. And everybody keeps telling me, all the cast, they're like, you better calm down, girl. You need to calm down. Keep your nerves down. You know, you'll just calm down. I said, no way, y'all. This is my debut. I'm so excited. Okay, so I get to the stage, excited, and I go through the golden curtain and I do this. I'm frozen. Terrified, okay? So Stephanie Blythe, whose voice, I don't know if you know, but it's one of the biggest voices ever in the world. And she's like, you know, and I don't come. And she's like, you know, like, are you gonna come? Come on, you have to move, snap out of it. You know, I mean, they told me not to be so excited like that because when I got onto the stage, I locked, you know. So as soon as my first line came out, I was in the zone and I was just in it and I knew I had to just do it. And the hardest part about it is I didn't get to be on the set before. As a cover, you rehearse in a tiny little room on the 5th floor, and they expect that if something happens, that you will just be able to navigate the stage. But the truth is, before each act, they said, here, 7 minutes before, they said, you can go out there and walk around and walk your staging. Yeah. When I first went out there, I was like, oh, this is crazy. I couldn't believe that set. I mean, I had never been so close to it. And the last time I'd actually been on the Met stage was the Met auditions in 2000. So I was so overwhelmed, but I got through it. And when I finished, I didn't remember anything. I kind of still don't. You know what I mean? I just did it. I just did what I knew I could do. And I had to remind myself that I'd already done it at fantastic houses. And that even though they didn't see me as a star and they didn't think I was enough, I showed them that even though the show wasn't perfect, maybe, I was more than enough. And the audience was so happy. And if there's anything I could say about an audience, we root for the underdog. the one who goes up there at the last minute and has to save the day. So everyone was behind me. It was amazing. 11 million people listening to the radio. I mean, it was the most stunning day. One of the highlights of my career. Absolutely incredible. So for any singer who's out there and you feel like, oh, I'm just a cover, I'm not going to go on, or, this is never going to happen. Bite your tongue. You never know, because it will happen like that. So please be ready. Please be warmed up every day, even as a cover. Because the truth is, even though Violetta, for those last 2 performances, she canceled them entirely, she could have very well canceled in the middle of the opera, y'all, and then said, Act 3, I can't sing it, go on. I would have been like, oh. And you have to be ready for O Patria Mia, you know what I mean? The treacherous Nile scene. Like, be prepared. Be ready to sing no matter what, because your opportunity will come sooner than you think it will. Just keep focused. Don't get discouraged and think that you're just a cover, because you have to remember that if you got that cover, if you're the understudy, that means you were that good enough to cover a star. So don't forget, for all of you young singers out there, you're a star in your own right. The fact that you've gotten to where you are, even you believe you're a star. Just show everybody that you got it, and we'll see it too. So that's what happened for me in my debut. It's my advice too.
That's such a great message. Such a great message for all these young artists that Eugenia is involved through her platform, through our platform, the artists we consult, and they are all eager. When is my moment gonna come? Will I ever have this moment? So there is a magic moment for everyone. You just be prepared for it.
Yeah, and I just want to point out something really great that you said, Latonia, about your colleagues being there for you, and even Michael Fabiano, like where you were sleeping in his couch, and I think for young artists, it's also very important to never underestimate the friendship, and the generosity of your colleagues, and how that is, it goes both ways.
Yes, I have to say, especially during the pandemic, I've seen people come out and support each other in a way that I mean, we had seen people supporting each other for years, just like I said, my colleagues did, 9 years ago. But I mean, on a regular basis, I see it now. I see people lifting each other up, people that you think, oh, this is an untouchable star and they're so fantastic, and they'll reach out. You know what I mean? Like you get support now. Like any singer can get great support from someone like Renee Fleming. You get great support, like online support, even from Anna Netrebko. Anya, she ended up sharing, I think, an excerpt of me for Porgy and Bess on her Instagram. And it was just such a sweet thing to do. And it showed that not only is she a supportive colleague in that way, but that she's a lover of opera, not just a singer of opera. That she loves what she does, and she appreciates good singing and great performing, you know what I mean? And this is very important, especially in this pandemic. You look at a lot of young singers going, I'm never going to make it. What's going to happen? Everything will shut down. All you have to do is keep yourself out there. And the rest of us, we've got your back. We'll support you and lift you up more than you know. Just reach out and people will do it. They really will. But support, especially now, it's all about support, lifting people up. And keeping your head positive, in an art form that everyone feels like might be dying and it might be tough, but no way. We all have the power to keep it going. It's been going for hundreds of years, and it doesn't stop now. We'll keep it moving,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. This pandemic proved to us that if we don't hold hands together, we won't survive. And personally, I found great support for my colleagues and from all of you that came to Prelude and gave such valuable advice to the young singers. So I really hope that this will continue after the pandemic, because all of you had more free time, of course, during the pandemic, and you could help the young artists more. But I hope you can give this little bit of your time in the future, because they need it so much.
Yes.
What you have to say, what you have to give, your precious experience, they crave for it. The next question has to do with repertoire, Latonia. You are a very versatile singer in terms of repertoire, jumping with ease from Mimi, a Mimi that you do with a huge voice, in my opinion, and beautifully sung. And you go also to AdE, for example. Does your technical approach differ for different kinds of repertoire?
Does my technical approach differ? Maybe not. I think the technical approach stays the same because for me, I'm a very character-driven singer. So it depends on what the character is. For instance, somebody like Madame Butterfly. Okay, yeah, all right. So let me eat my words. Maybe I do change technique a little bit. If I do Madame Butterfly, very rarely in that opera will I use chest voice. Because I don't think a 15-year-old would do that, and even as an 18-year-old, there may be a couple of moments where she'll do it and she's feeling grand emotion. And even when I do go into chest voice, the maybe 2 times in the entire opera that I do, it is delicata, it's easy, it's smooth and delicate. It's never driven like with somebody like AdE. AdE is, she's African, you know what I mean? She's a different kind of being, more animalistic in nature, you know what I mean? More an original creature. And so I believe, something like AdE, when you go in and sing it, even though she's also not that much older than Cho-Cho-san, she develops differently, a different kind of woman. And so I believe you have to have an animal sound in a way, especially in the first part of AdE. Maybe it won't serve you well later in the opera, but in the first part, yes. And then you have a character like Elizabeth and Don Carlo. Elizabeth also, she's royalty. And royalty, when they go down into their chest voice, it has a lot of body, but it also has to have elegance. You know what I mean? It has to have a smoothness. So it all depends on the character, how I end up shaping phrases and how I color things and what kind of voice I'm using. You know what I mean? But for the most part, my technique stays the same, stays in line, keep the right thing in the mask, flip over in the passaggio, it's the same story, no matter what. But in general, you have to color the way you sing according to the character. And the other thing I want to say, just for any young singers that are out there listening, first and foremost comes vocal technique, right? Once you've mastered your technique, you can't be afraid to color your voice in a way that's not always perfect. Sometimes you have to sound ugly. Lady Macbeth can't always sound gorgeous. And in the sleepwalking scene, she must, because this is the end of her life and she's in a sort of delirium, a helium state that's lifted and risen. And it has a lightness to it that the rest of the opera doesn't, because she's inherently power driven and slightly evil. Yes. So don't be afraid to sound ugly. If you're sad, don't be afraid to sound like you're about to cry. If you're angry, don't be afraid to sing through your gritted teeth. If you are elated and so happy, don't be afraid to make the brightest possible Snow White sound you can think of. It's very important with characters to always build colors, because if you build colors with a character, you build personality, and the audience pays attention to that more than they will you singing perfectly with beautiful, pretty notes all the time. The idea of this art form is not just sounding pretty. It's also looking a certain way. It's also portraying the character. You have to bring a character to life, and you can't do it if all you have is perfect technique. So you also need perfect emotion. You need perfect balance. You need variety on your face. Give people a show. An opera is a sung play. That is all it is. But, to say that's all it is, I don't mean to, diminish it in any way. But you're singing a play.
Still
bring
theater.
Your characters to life by changing color. Give variety to your sound. Don't be afraid to go over the edge a little bit. That's what I like as an audience member anyway.
Absolutely. And this kind of takes me to my next question. And you talked about this, about basically technique, interpretation being part of the technique, and how colors should be a part of your vocal technique. But what can you say, like this concept of yes, vocal technique comes first because it allows us to create all these colors and characters. But in the training, sometimes it can become very divided, first you learn your technique, and then I guess you put some acting on top of that, you know? So what can you advise for young singers, you know, in training or still in school to develop these two things simultaneously?
Ooh, well, one important thing is the way you study what you're singing. Number one, before you start doing anything else, read through your text. Read through your text in your native tongue, please. If you are Russian, read through your text in Russian. Speak it in Russian. If you are Italian and you are singing a German opera, please speak your words in Italian first. Everything as you just speak them so you can know what it is you're saying. If you have a connection to your words, it will guide the way you color your phrases. It will guide the way, almost guide your technique. You know what I mean? So everything, you know, when you do it, go in from the text, go in from actual story. Now, if you want to just be a classical singer and you don't want to act and you don't want to emote, then please be a concert singer and sing oratorio, sing the Rachmaninoff vocalese all day, every day. There's lots of beautiful vocaleses if you don't want to do that. But if you are an opera singer, everything must be approached from character first. Technique aside, it has to be the character first. Technique solid, character, character, character. Read those words in your native tongue. Really know what you're saying. Look in the mirror and say them, you know, and react to what you're saying. You know, that's how you give the character a heartbeat, you know. So that's the way to do it. I don't know if I really answered the question.
Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Here, because we ask this almost to every guest about the importance of speaking languages. For example, you are a specialist of Italian repertoire right now. Does it help if you speak Italian, if you know the language and not just translating the text? What is the difference?
Well, look, if you speak Italian and you're fluent in Italian, that's really fantastic. But if you're an American and even if you're fluent in Italian, there's translating that goes on automatically in your head no matter what. So this is the biggest thing. If you're not a native speaker of something, you have to learn the dialect as if you were. You have to have a subtext in your head that says the phrase that you're trying to communicate. You know, that way, if you don't speak Italian, for instance, and you're trying to say, let's see, let me think of a phrase. Ancora un passo via. Okay, the first butterfly line. You know, if you're trying to say something like that, how do you communicate that if you don't speak Italian? Well, you need to translate it into your native tongue. You know that she's saying, oh gosh, okay, the time is passing so fast. Okay, wait for me. I'm coming up here. You know, I'm coming. You have to have this sort of feeling of joy, no matter what. You know, the other really important thing is, please, everyone, with your diction, if you don't speak a language, take the IPA book and learn closed vowels, open vowels. You know, I mean, because there's a difference. And it's the same thing with rolled R's or single R. The word core and corre are two different meanings. You know, these are very, very important little details that everybody needs to remember, because regardless of whether or not your audience speaks native Italian, these things stick out as far as intention to someone's ear. They, you know, when someone doesn't know when they're with their incorrect diction, that they don't really have an understanding of language in general, regardless of whether or not they comprehend, you know, the meaning of the language. There has to be a flow. You know what I mean? So everything is about syntax. When I'm singing a role and I have something in my head, I'm thinking in English. I don't think in Italian because it's not my native tongue. So if I'm thinking in English, I communicate in Italian, but it has to have the intent as if I know exactly what I'm saying. Do I speak Italian? I mean, I can get by in Italy. I dated a guy in Trieste for a few months, and so he didn't speak any English, and I learned very quick.
That's how you learn.
Because you have to understand, like, you know, as an American opera singer at the beginning, you don't really, you know, how to speak Italian, like colloquially, like, you know, like everybody does there in Italy. So I remember one of my first jobs in Italy, I was in the hotel and I needed a pillow. And so I asked for a guanciale. Now, guanciale is not pillow anymore. Now, you used to be able to use this word for pillow in the 1800s. But, you know, 16,000, guanciale is like pork cheek or something like that, I think is a translation. So when I went, you know, asked for, you know, a pillow at the front desk, they start laughing at me. They said, no, this is not the word for pillow. And the man knew. He said, you sing opera. I know. He said, because this is the old word, la bohème. He even knew what opera it was from. Guanciale, under the pillow. You know, so look, there are some things that no matter what, you know, even if you think you're a native speaker and you've learned from the score, it's not exactly correct. So the most important thing is to have an understanding in whatever language you speak as you're saying your lines. This takes a lot of detail work, people, a lot. It's not easy, you know, but the reason why you see some people up here in the career and some people a little lower is because those people up here have done the detail work. They've paid attention, you know, they are trying to communicate something to you. This is the difference. I remember talking to a young singer not that long ago who was saying, oh, you know, but I mean, my technique is perfect, and her technique is perfect, better than mine, but she communicates nothing. So I told her, I said, I think the best thing for you to do is try to pick up a play like Shakespeare. You know what I mean? No matter what it is, if Othello or something like that, you know, pick it up and just speak it and try to make it mean something. Once you're able to do that, bring it back to Desdemona. After that, after you understand really what's going on, because that way you won't have to think about your technique, which our technique is perfect. You don't have to think about, you know, but that's the way to do it. You know, throw yourself into the character. Now, I have thrown myself into the character, probably gone overboard, like Magda Olivero style, way too often. But for me, I mean, you only live once, y'all. And if you're going to get up there and be on the stage and you're the one doing it, then do the damn thing. I mean, you also have to remind yourself it's hard when it comes to an industry like this is so competitive. I'm not the only AIDA. There's like 65 out there. You know what I mean? Like lots of AIDAs, you know, but when you get on the stage and no matter what role it is you are singing, you can't think about everybody that came before you and anybody that's going to come after. The big thing you remind yourself when you get on that stage, no matter what the role, you say, I am AIDA. That's what I am today. There was no AIDA before me. The other ones don't exist. And there will be no AIDA after me. It's just me. That way you give your all as if you are the number one. And that's what it should be every time you perform. Leave it all on the stage, yeah? Like you were the absolute best. And that night you are, because you're the only one. You know what I mean? You're the one doing it. You know, it's very crucial to keep that in your head, you know, in an industry like this.
I love what you just said, because it addresses, you know, this whole thing with imposter syndrome. It's that, you know, it's so easy to say like, you know, like, why am I here? There's a lot of other people who are really great. Like, yeah, but
yeah,
you know, but you are too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of people that are great, you know what I mean? And there's only this much work now to go out to those people, you know what I mean? But I, you know, I constantly see people get so upset or discouraged and jealous about, you know, other people in their career and what they're doing. And I'm just like, well, you know, and some people who are doing great things, I mean, singing at all the top houses and still getting upset about other people doing stuff. And I'm just like, focus on yourself.
Yes.
You know, and more than that, I tell those people, remind yourself why you're doing this. And if you're doing this so that you can only be number one and be a star and be famous, then this is the wrong career for you. Because the bubble of opera in the world is this big.
Yes.
You know, I mean, if Anna Netrebko is walking down the street in San Antonio, Texas, most people will have no idea who she is. You know what I mean? Because this is our bubble. This is our world. So don't, you know, just try not to compare yourself so hard to what everybody else is doing. I mean, you know, you can't be everywhere at once. You can't be the one all the time. Sometimes it's other people. And sometimes, you know, believe it or not, instead of sitting there being jealous about other people, you can always learn from them. You know, absolutely. I think about my peers, and like I said, there are so many people who sing my repertoire, you know what I mean? And I guess I don't find it intimidating because I'm secure in who I am. And the fact that I have something unique to bring, you know. But I'm also a big appreciator of great singing. So of my colleagues, I mean, I hear a lot of great singing out there, like great butterflies, people my age or younger, you know what I mean, who are incredible, you know, people that I can learn from. You know what I mean? Even because I don't care how old I am, I never stop learning, you know, and I listen to people and I never stop just, I don't know, I never stop going forward. You know what I mean? I don't let, you know, what's around me hold me back. You know what I mean? I sort of just celebrate everybody around me, what they're doing, and I use it as motivation.
Yeah. That's the right mindset. Yeah. I love it.
And actually, you said something incredible before, that when you are concentrated to what the others do, you lose your target. And I don't know, are you teaching? Are you teaching already? Because you're too young. That's why I'm asking.
No, no, I'm not that young. But yes, yeah, I teach. And a funny thing is, I actually started teaching when I was in high school, um, but not voice. I was teaching music theory. I had a little class of students that my last 2 years of high school, I would teach them how to sight read, you know, teach them the staff, you know, notes and intervals and just basic music theory. So even as a young person, I always wanted to teach, you know, and I've always been encouraging of other singers, you know, and what they do. And so it's always been a big passion of mine. I mean, now I do it mostly in some private teaching, like coachings and stuff, masterclass. But yeah, I definitely teach. But to bring it back to what you said, what I was talking about earlier about paying attention to yourself and focusing on what it is you do, it's true, because the more energy you give to all these other singers around you, they're going to get that energy. They're going to take that energy and they're going to run with it. Keep the energy focused on yourself. Because if you keep all of your energy focused on yourself, you're going to go streamline like this. But if your energy is scattered, your path will be like this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it just takes you so much longer. And believe me, I wasted too much time not focused necessarily on what other people were doing, but other people's opinions about me. This is very dangerous. You have to decide who you are and remind yourself of who you are, because everybody's got something to say. Everybody thinks they know better. Everybody thinks they know what to tell you, and they know this and that and that. Now you make a choice of whether or not to listen, because I listen to what everybody says and I consider it, but I also know how to sweep it off my shoulder. You know? So focus on number one, people. If you focus on number one and keep focusing on you, you will get where you need to go faster. You will get where you need to go, period. You'll get there, you know? So don't give everybody else your energy. That's not fair. You know what I mean? Save it for yourself, because the time for you to give everybody your energy is when you're on that stage, not when you're on social media staring at what everybody's doing, going, oh, I wish I was doing that. I want to do that. She's not even that good. What a waste.
Yeah.
Keep it for yourself. When you see somebody else doing something great like that, be like, oh, amazing. And
good
start
for
working.
them.
Be like, I'm gonna pick up my score. I want to do this. You know what I mean? Like, let it motivate you.
Yes.
Make it about you. I don't mean to be conceited, but you do have to be self-oriented in this world. Think about it. The truth is, at the end of your career, at the end of your life, you sit there, hopefully, old man, old woman in your bed, and thinking, wow, I did it. But when you pass, you die alone. Okay, it's just you, which means it's your life to live, just yours. So if you're going to do it, focus just on you. You build your life. Focus on you, build your life, so that when you are there in the end, you're content. And you don't sit there full of regret about how you worried about this and worried about your high C and worried about your coloratura. Oh my God, you realize at the end that what a waste for you to worry about it. Just do it. Even if it's terrible, do it. Practice makes perfect, yeah? Because my coloratura is not great. It's coloratura basura, as they say in Spain. Trash coloratura. But, I don't care. I mean it when I sing it, even if it's not fantastic. Sometimes it's funny, but I'm gonna just do it, because if I'm doing the character, I'm gonna give you everything I got. And that's what everybody should do. Don't leave any of it. Give us all of it when it's time to give it, you know?
Yes.
I think you gave us
Agreed.
the most powerful moment, I think. Today's interview. Actually, I would like to apologize on behalf of my StreamYard platform here that it doesn't stream directly to on the 360 today. It seems there's
I think it is. I think it is now.
It is now?
Yeah, I think it actually is now. I think it started like a little later or something.
It's behaving a bit strange, but okay. Okay, I think probably. So we'll leave a little bit back the singing part of your life, and we'll move to the family, to your lovely kids that we know you love so much, and you try always to spend time with them. How do you manage to combine a motherhood with such a competitive singing career?
Oof.
What's the secret?
First of all, I never thought I would actually have children. This was not in my plan. I did never want to get married. I never wanted to have children, but you know what happens? You know, you fall for somebody and you marry them, you have babies, and this is what you do. Well, one thing is I had already established my career, you know, to a point. I mean, I had my first child in 2015. So this was after I had sung at a lot of major houses and already put myself on the map, so to speak. So I do advise waiting a little bit, you know, but even if you don't wait, what you need more than anything is a good support system. So if you're the female and you're the one that's carrying the baby, you know, you need support, whether it be your husband, whether it be your parents or your siblings or somebody to help you. You need it, because when you're doing a show, for instance, and you have children and they live with you, if you are the only one taking care of the children and you try to do it all completely alone, your show is going to suffer because of stress. You know, that's the hardest thing about children in the career is managing the stress of it. I was married for 6.5 years, and I'm just recently divorced as of 2 months ago. And the hard thing about it is, before that, my husband was doing a lot of the work with the children. He was the one that was taking care of them most of the time. For the year of 2019, I every once in a while was able to come home, but I spent only 3 months total with both of my children. And the other 9 months, they were with their father while I was traveling. This was very, very hard for me. You know what I mean? Because I not only felt like a bad mom, but I knew that my children needed me around. So I say, with this career, no matter what you do, you need help from somewhere. You cannot do it alone. And once you get that help, you have to remind yourself that you have to spend quality time with your children. There was a really famous soprano not that long ago who told me something in a drunken stupor. She had been drinking, okay? And she said, Latonia, I'm going to tell you 3 things about this career. And this is for me too. She said, number 1, you will be an amazing singer. Number 2, you'll be a so-so mother and a shit wife. And I said, oh my God, I really hope that's not me. You know what I mean? I don't want to do things like, you know, I want to be equally everything. And she said, that's not possible. I think she's wrong. I think she's wrong. It's a lot to juggle and it's a lot to handle, you know, but you have to be strong and you have to stay focused on what it is you need to do to make your life work. Because for me, and this might not come out right to a lot of people, but I was a performer and a singer first before I was a mother and a wife. So you have to be able to integrate everything else that in your life into the singing and not the other way around, in my opinion. Some singing mothers do not believe that. And they say, my family comes first and the children are first and the singing is second. That's a choice they make. That's fine. But I believe that if you do honestly 100% have that mentality, then it's going to be harder for you to be higher up in your career. My mentality and my thinking for it is, I have to be great in my career now, not just for myself, but now I have to do it for my family. So now that I have a family, it's extra motivation to really succeed and to stay up there and keep doing great things. You know what I mean? But since I was a singer first, you know what I mean? It is about adding everything else into the mix.
It's your identity.
Yes, you know what I mean? So it's very crucial that you have help. And for me, now I'm back up to the Northeast Coast and I have help here in Philadelphia. That's where I am now. And I was living in Miami for 3 years where I didn't know, I mean, I knew maybe 2 people there and I never saw them. And so I did everything alone. When the pandemic hit, it was a huge wake-up call for me as a mother and a wife. In March of last year, of course, everything stopped and I was at home and I've been with my children ever since. And it's the longest in a stretch of time that I've been with them ever since they've been alive. You know what I mean? It really is an incredible thing. So as shitty as this pandemic is, I almost thank God that it stopped me and it forced me to just sit and really get to know my family better. And not only do I love my children more than I ever did before, but I like them. They're actually super cool. They're smart and wild and crazy, and they're a lot like me. Even though they hadn't been around me as much, I see myself in them, man, and I feel like I'm cooler because of it. I'm just like, dang, I'm not such a bad person after all. I'm pretty cool, man. I mean, and because I see it through them, you know what I mean? And one other funny thing that happened is I remember I was going to do an interview, and this was during the pandemic, maybe in May or something like that. And before the interview, I was writing the staff, treble clef and the music staff and showing notes because my daughter wanted to warm up and do some scales and sing like I do. So I just put and I wrote it up on the window. And so she tries to do the same thing. And I said, do it slowly. She goes, dee, 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 dee. And she ran out of breath. And you know what this girl did? She dropped down to the floor and she starts doing push-ups. Okay. And I said, Naomi, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm trying to make my stomach strong so I can hold the notes. And I was like, she automatically knew that she had to strengthen her core to support her voice and have better breath support and breath control.
She has better technique than a lot of people.
Better technique than me. Stunning.
100%.
It kind of blew my mind that a 5-year-old was like doing this and without anybody telling her to. She had the instinct, you know. But yeah. I've learned from that.
Amazing.
When I saw her doing that, I was like, she's right. I should strengthen my core more. So I dropped down and was able to do 2 push-ups only. Now I can do 20. But at the time, I could only do 2. And I was just like, you know what? I was like, you're right, Naomi. I need to start doing that. She said, yeah, mama, yeah.
Latonia, has Naomi been around at the theater rehearsals? Have you been taking her with you?
Nope. No, she at the beginning, I tried to have her in the rehearsal room when she was very small, like 5 months old, but it was too loud. You know what I mean? Yeah. So she was crying. She's like, I don't want to hear these loud voices in my ear. So that was it. But no, they don't tend to come to the theater or anything. They've seen like excerpts of me on YouTube and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But really, it was just natural instinct for her to understand, you know, vocal production and sound and what you have to do to make a better sound. So, I mean, that's not the only thing I've learned from her. She also started teaching me to swim this past summer. My little daughter, you know, because I don't really swim. And she's like, come on, mama, don't be scared. And I was terrified. And she had to hold my hands and put me under the water and everything. And I don't know, it's been, you know, not only am I really glad to spend time with my children because they're my children, but they're also my family. Regardless of how old they are, they care about me and they're here to help me. Even the little toddlers, you know, yeah. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the secret of your power.
Maybe it's these kids. Who knows?
That's beautiful. Well, I want to move back to the singing and more specifically to Porgy and Bess. So before we started the interview, behind the scenes, we were already talking about this because both of us got to see you perform at Porgy and Bess live at the Met, and it was for me, it was my first time seeing you perform live, and it was just incredible. For me, you just stopped time in that scene with your aria that we showed at the beginning, and it was just amazing. So you now have a Grammy because of this performance.
I do. Oh my God. Do you want me to go get it?
Yes.
Give me that. Okay, just 1 second.
Yes.
What a big moment for Prelude, right?
So cool. We have a Grammy at Prelude.
Wow, that's a big moment.
Oh my Lord.
She deserves it so much. It was incredible.
It was really amazing. And it was also my first time seeing the show live, so it was very special. Oh my God.
Here it is.
That's very impressive.
Wow.
Now let me tell you just really quickly about this Grammy.
Yes.
The fabulous thing about it is back in 1996, when I was in high school, I went to the Grammy Awards. I was one of 16 young jazz singers that were chosen to be in a Grammy choir. And we got to perform at the nominee party. We got to go to the Grammys. We recorded an album. We performed with Santana. I mean, it was fantastic. Okay. So when I was there, I remember saying, and I said it out loud, I was like, I'm going to win a Grammy one day. I know I am. I'm going to win one day. Now, it took 25 years, but I did it. And I still can't believe it. You know, I feel like it's proof to anybody who's not sure if they should keep going. Do it. Even if it takes 25 years, do it. You know what I mean? It's the most amazing thing that could have happened. And in the most amazing opera, and not only did I get a Grammy for, oh man, I'm getting emotional. Not only did I get a Grammy for an opera, but it was a jazz opera where I started. And it was the first opera I ever saw. You know, so wow. You know, it was really, really such a major thing, and a major thing to share with my colleagues. You know, the fact that in light of everything that had been happening over the pandemic and all the racism running rampant in America, to see not just an opera, but a Black opera, a jazz opera, you know, win the Grammy is one of the most special things that has happened in my entire life. So, I mean, it was fantastic. And also about Porgy and Bess. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Also about Porgy and Bess. One amazing thing is, as an opera singer, they tell a lot of the Black opera singers not to sing Porgy and Bess. They say you will get stuck. It will be all you will sing, and they won't want you for anything else. And I said, but I want to do it. I don't care if I get stuck, because to me, it's a fantastic opera. And I've always, you know, I mean, I'm a jazz singer at heart. So for me, I will never run away from Porgy and Bess. I'll do it forever. And I'm proof that you don't get stuck. You know, because the first time I did Porgy and Bess, I was Bess, and at the Berlin Philharmonic, and I learned it in 6 days because my colleague was pregnant and she couldn't do it. So I learned it super fast, and I went out to do it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And this was in 2012, you know, and since then, let's see, I've only done this production of Porgy, which originated in London, and then we took it to Amsterdam, and then it was at the Met, but it's only been this production. I would like to do more, honestly, you know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I think it's such a fantastic opera that I can't imagine anybody seeing it in a negative light and feeling like they would get stuck. But I'm all right with it. I mean, I say, if you are a Black singer and you know who you are as an artist, and you have a wide variety of repertoire, of course you can still sing Porgy and Bess and get cast for other things. You know what I mean? Especially now. I mean, people are sitting up and really paying attention to a lot of the Black artists in America and seeing that there's more to offer. than just singing gospel and just singing Black opera and spirituals, that we, you know, we cover the gamut. You know what I mean? Just like any other singer does, that we're versatile and we can do everything. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I hope that this Grammy is the first of a few. Is my hope. You know what I mean? You never know. But yeah, very, very exciting, and exciting to be a part of the production of Porgy. Usually when I go into an opera, I am the only Black singer. Okay. Most of the time, of course, most of my career has been AdE. I've done like 180 performances. And so I go in and I'm the only Black person. And it's always been awesome, to be honest. I love being the only one of anything in a room because I like getting all the attention. Of course, I mean, we're opera singers. We are attention whores. We love to be looked at, and we love, you know, affection and love, right? But I didn't know how I was going to feel the first day walking into a production of all Black singers, because it hadn't really happened before. But when I did walk in that room, it was a different feeling. It was a feeling of people that were like me. And I felt like I could lean on everybody. Like I felt so much, I don't know, like a family vibe, you know, that you don't usually get in opera, because it's always very serious. And everyone walks in and they're like, you know, I have to be like this, you know what I mean? And it wasn't that at all. It was a family of people. I mean, sometimes we were fighting. Me and the guy singing Jake, you know, we were arguing, you know what I mean? And now I just adore him, Ryan Speedo Green. But at first we were like, you know what I mean? Like family. So it was a fantastic experience all around, and one of the greatest productions for me I've ever been involved in, this Porgy. So, I mean, just thrilled to have been part of
I
it.
love that choice of words you used. You felt like you could lean on them, and you literally, we see that on that video. You know, you're singing your aria and you're literally leaning on them.
You know, I am, and it's funny you say that, because in Serena, her character in the community, she's the one that everyone leans on. Mm-hmm. Everyone comes upstairs to her house. You know, if something goes wrong, they come to Serena. You know, that, you know, she's the one keeping everybody in line, and she lifts up the whole community. But then she's broken and she can't lift herself up. And so that whole community, in the very next scene, they have to hold her up. This was a very special thing that me and the director, James Robinson, came up with, because he loved the concept of it flipping like that, showing that anybody can hold up anyone in this community, because that's how strong the bond is in Catfish Row, you know. But thank you for noticing that, you know what I mean? Because we really made a point to highlight that support.
Yeah.
And especially at the moment that Porgy happened and had this success and had this, I mean, these strong emotions that created to all of us who were there. Especially, it wasn't a good moment at that time when it happened. And then you brought the change. You started the process. So it was very precious happening in 2020 before the changes we had.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll stay around this issue. In your opinion, what are some ways that the opera world could overcome preconceived ideas about casting and increase diversity? There has been a lot of conversation about increasing diversity in the past year. Do you see any positive changes happening already, maybe?
Oh, definitely. First of all, you know, in America, you didn't see too many minorities in positions of power, like doing any kind of casting, heads of young artist programs, advisory committees, nothing like that. Maybe one singer, you know, and now there's like 12. You know what I mean? I mean, all kinds of different singers, Black singers, you know, Asian singers, Latino singers, all kinds of people. And you're seeing them more, not just on the stage, but in these positions where they're doing the casting, where they're really, you know, bringing people to light. This has been the biggest change that I've noticed, because as far as casting is concerned, I would say that even before the pandemic started, it was starting to go in the direction of them trying to do something. You know, at the beginning of the 1920 season at the Met, they had already been talking about, you know, trying to, you know, have inclusion and diversity, not only casting, you know, Black people for Black roles, and not only casting Asian singers for Asian roles, you know what I mean? And they had already been trying to make an effort. But of course, now it's catapulted, you know? So I absolutely do see a difference. My big concern is I'm hoping it will last. I hope that this is not just the cool thing to do in the moment, you know, to have, you know, more women, more minorities, more minority of anything. You know, I hope it's not just a passing fad, you know, and that part has me a little bit concerned, but we'll see as the years go on. But I mean, I think the people are making big efforts. They really, really are. You know, I'm seeing also more promotion of young singers. This has also been really, really exciting, you know, and even though that's not necessarily just about diversity, it is about inclusion. And I feel like sometimes young singers, they don't get promoted very much, they don't get paid attention to unless they're winning competitions. And now I'm seeing lots more young singers on social media doing more performances and getting performance opportunities from even big companies and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it's there, you know, and I applaud the effort. And all I can say is please keep it up, you know what I mean? Keep it going. Don't let this just be some passing thing and the trend and what's hot right now. You know what I mean? It should be forever this way, you know, especially in America. I believe that the more variety of person you have on the stage, the more variety you'll have in your audience, which is in general just a lot more people, not just exclusively older people who are obsessed with opera and all of these things, you know what I mean? Just a variety of rainbow of people in the audience of different types, different shapes, different sizes, different colors, you know. So I will see, we'll see what happens with this effort, you know. My fingers are crossed.
And I think with what you're saying, I mean, Porgy and Bess was an example because it should be diversity not only in the casting but also in the repertoire. And I mean, Porgy was a huge success, you know, and it brought a lot of people to the opera house that maybe, like, you know, before they wouldn't, because they don't see themselves represented in the theater, so there's no interest. So starting to mix it up, but maybe now they're like, oh wait, like opera's kind of cool, like maybe I want to come see something else too. Or they start following the artists themselves and they want to come see you in something else, you know?
Yeah, now that has definitely happened where there were people that came to Porgy and Bess and they've been interested in other things. Like they watched my online recital in which I sang, half of it was Russian music because I love it so much. And the other part was some English songs, and I did a Puccini aria, you know, but I don't think those people would have paid attention to that before. You know, people who usually just listen to pop music, R&B, you know, country or whatever they're into, you know, they were more into what I had to offer there. And I loved especially responses from specifically the people who are not really opera lovers, you know, but they're just like, what is this? Oh my God, I'm affected by it. This touched me. I'm like, good. There's this. You listen to this singer. I gave one woman, she sent me this long, sweet message. And she said, are there other things you advise I listen to as singers? I said, absolutely. Claudia Muzio, #1, you know, Poncel, you know, go to Chinya, you know what I mean? Like all kinds of people, you know what I mean? So I loved that, you know, people were getting more excited about the art form. Whatever it takes to draw a person in these days. You know, and one other thing I'll say is I know that some people are opposed to mixing opera with other things, like mixing opera with jazz or mixing opera with hip hop, mixing opera with pop music. Now, naturally, my nature is to be a purist. Okay. And I'm like, keep opera, please, and don't do blah, 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 blah. But that's changed because I'm realizing, I'm like, you don't have to stay stuck in the tradition of what opera is. It's about expanding it now. We must.
Yeah.
Like, yes, of course, everyone wants, you know, the opera connoisseur wants to see a nice traditional production of X, Y, or Z. Like, you just want to see a natural Carmen, a Carmen like it's always supposed to be. But sometimes people want to take, you know, parts of Carmen and put it on a club mix and bring it into the club. I'm okay with that idea because it exposes more people to classical music. They go, what was that sampled from? What is this track? What is that?
Yeah.
What is that? And they start Googling it. And then they're like, oh my God, Maria Callas. Wow, this woman was amazing. Exposure.
Yeah.
Do what you can to expose the art form, right? Don't keep it in this elite box for the rich. Open it up for everybody. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And the way to connect to people is through things that they already like. So if they already like, you know, hip hop, connect it somehow. If, you know, they are into comedies and they like comedic shows and stuff like that, do a little ad, like something comedic opera, you know what I mean? Like kind of put it in there a little bit, opera and classical, you know, like meshing the two. Because, you know, opera and classical music used to be very popular decades ago, like 50 years ago, you know what I mean? It was super popular and people were watching it on TV and really going to the theater. Now we need to do different things to keep people involved in our art form. And I say our because, you know, it's, come on, it's, I am a person who is a catalyst. I am a person that's used as a vessel to continue this art form. So that's why, even for young singers, I have to pass on my knowledge and everything I know, because it's through people like me that we continue. And just like the people who taught me before and who taught them, you know, it's not our job just to sit here and go, I'm a great opera singer and I'm going to sing opera and it's all elite and all this. It is your job to pay it forward. If we don't keep the art form thriving and we don't keep exposing it, then it'll die.
Yeah.
So you have two jobs. You get up and be a fantastic artist and perform and give the audience everything you can give them, and you pass your knowledge. You must. This is how it continues. We are the reason that Maria Callas still exists. Everybody has to remember that. If we didn't care, then the history books would be buried along with her. But that's how we keep her alive, through us. You know what I mean? So yes, all the exposure possible for opera. You know what I mean? Let's keep it in the theaters. Let's keep it diverse. Let's show everybody that anybody can do it and anybody can enjoy it. You know, so I do think we're going in the right direction. I just hope it keeps up.
Yeah.
If the welcome message comes from somebody like you, I think people will come, because I'm really surprised to see. I feel you as my friend already. I didn't know you, and this is to my heart. You are very intimate. You are a very live person, a part of the society. You speak about everything, and that is very encouraging, because people from outside imagine opera guys like, you know, very much in a cage in their own world, diva. Yes, but this doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't. You know,
No.
I mean, what's so fantastic about the other genres of music? Well, it's that the artists, they show people that it's accessible, that anybody can love it. They want everybody to love it. Opera should open up the same way. So thank you for saying that though, Maria, really. I mean, yes.
There was a time that we had Tebaldi and Maria Callas, and they had these affairs with the rich men and the very big galas that they were attending and the parties. It was another type of building a persona at that time, another time and another kind of marketing. But now times have changed, and people need this intimate contact with the others.
Yes.
I think this is a little bit passé, as we say, the other way, the diva way. And
Yes.
it doesn't touch the heart like the way you do it.
Yes, it's true. I agree.
We can still adore Maria Callas.
We adore her because her age was iconic, but ages change, and
no, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, it's the other thing about adoring Maria Callas and Tebaldi, who I adore, you know, and all these fantastic singers. You know, the other thing is it's hard because everyone wants to live in the past, especially some of the older opera fans, and then they're just like, well, this isn't as good as the way it used to be. This isn't as good as the blah blah blah, and this is not as good. No, it's not that it's not as good. It's just you're comparing us to something of the past. Try to open your ears and open your mind to something different, you know, and maybe it won't have all the clean perfection and all these things that you want, but do you want to sit here and be entertained or not? Are you here to entertain? I mean, are you here to enjoy the performance? Are you here to judge it?
Yeah.
Please come to opera to enjoy. Open your mind. This opera is a suspension of disbelief. Not only a suspension of disbelief, but a suspension of time, which means you go into the opera and the outside world stops. There's nothing else. All you're doing is throwing yourself into the story, just like a fantasy movie, like Lord of the Rings or something. If you take this mental approach to it, then you, as a 85-year-old opera lover who wants to live in the past, can finally start having fun again. You know what I mean? Go in and just be like, oh, yes, new singer. Don't think about the way you've heard it before. Try to listen with fresh ears as if you've never heard it before. Because I guarantee you, as a performer, I am thinking in my mind, my job is to perform it as if you've never heard it before. You know, many people have heard Tosca, right? They've heard Tosca. A lot of people know it. But when I go out there to perform it, it's my job to sing it as if I was composing it while it's coming out of my mouth. You know, you don't want people to know that you know the next step. It all has to feel and seem spontaneous. So if the singer is up there doing that for the audience has to have an open mind and listen with fresh, brand new ears. Even the 85-year-olds, y'all, listen with new ears, new freshness. This is what keeps things alive, and not just you trying to bring up a mummy from the grave, hoping that you can live in the past. Move forward. Don't be afraid to, even mentally.
That's exactly what I meant, that we have to have a fresh approach. Because now with the social media era, everything is so transparent. You can't live in this kind of myths. It's a bit vain to do something like this. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I just thought of something when you were saying that the audience should come with fresh ears. They come, whether they like a new production or not, they have to come with new eyes to see a new production, right? Every time they see a new production, the visual element. So why not do it as well, you know, with what they're listening to? And it should all be one, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, I think we were going to touch on the pandemic and the lessons from the pandemic, but I think we already discussed about that. So
well, sort of.
If you have more.
We did. Oh, just a little more if you wanted to talk about the pandemic. I mean, when the pandemic started, of course, for a lot of people, it was hard to even keep singing. You didn't know if you were going forward. And, you know, some people tried to change careers. Well, for me, since I was thrust into motherhood in a way that I didn't know before, I was forced to cook. Okay, now cooking was not something that was really my forte. I would do it before, but not in an amazing way. So I have perfected an incredible bolognese recipe. Oh my God, it's so good. It takes like 5 hours, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? And so I've started cooking a lot more, like doing like home cooked meals and things like that. And I never thought of myself as a good cook before, but I mean, hey, I'm doing it. And now, of course, with my daughter, Naomi, trying to swim and, you know, just kind of taking up these different adventures that I didn't think I was, you know, would be able to do before, you know. So the pandemic definitely sort of showed me that I'm more than just an opera singer, that I'm capable of doing more things. And I don't know what other trade I'm going to pick up, you know, and learn to do, but I feel like now I can kind of do anything. And not only can I kind of do anything, I have to, because, you know, even though opera's my career, it's my main focus and everything, you have to have other things in your life too. You know, if you're only obsessed with and only focused on opera, then, and you forget to live, then when you're in your deathbed and you've had the most fantastic career possible, you think, I don't have anybody to share it with, or I didn't have anything else that I did, and you missed out on life. Go out and live. Yeah. Go. And I mean, I remember, like, in my life, especially before I was married, I used to always do crazy stuff, like great vacations and throw elaborate parties. I remember with my boyfriend in the past, we got these little motorbikes where you can ride on the bottom of the ocean floor, or the bottom of the Caribbean, and you have a helmet on and you're down there with all the fish and riding around, or going in a hot air balloon, or doing a helicopter ride. Go to the gun range and shoot on targets and stuff. Go bowling. Go do something else, people. I mean, because it not only is it good for you to, you know, have a variety of things to do, but you won't go crazy. It keeps you a normal person. Like I said, opera is serious. It is one of the most serious musical art forms there is. Even if you're doing a comedy, I mean, it's difficult to sing and difficult to learn, and it's a lot to put together. You have to have an outlet. No matter what that outlet is, you got to have something else in your life. And, you know, as far as family and stuff like that, so does your significant other, your partner, your husband or your wife, and so do your children. All of you have to have something else, not just focused on the one thing. I can't just be focused on opera. My ex-husband couldn't just be focused on me. He has to have something else, another job, another thing to do. You know, bring variety in your life, because it will enrich you as a singer if you're doing all this other stuff, if you're living and you're not in just this little bubble, because you would have lived more, you would have experienced more. I mean, I definitely sing Madam Butterfly totally different now than I did 15 years ago, not only because I have children, but because I have lived and I know how to express myself better than I did 15 years ago. You know what I mean? So keep your mind going, keep your brain thriving. Please don't forget to read books. It's very exciting. Reading is very, very crucial, people. Like reading fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter. Read, because when you read, you create things in your mind. You create pictures, and this gives you artistic development in a way that a movie can't, because a movie is feeding you what they want you to see and what they want you to imagine the story looking like. With a book, the possibilities are endless. It can be anything, you know, just like with a score. I advise reading through your opera score first. Don't listen to a recording and turn something video on. Just only do that. That way you can visualize it. You can imagine it, you know. It's a richer experience for everybody that way. So yeah,
absolutely.
wanted to throw that out there.
No, absolutely. It's gonna, all these life experiences it's gonna give you more experiences to draw from when you're coloring your characters.
Right. Yes.
And by leaving this sterilized, let's say, opera singer's life, we forget to just live. L-I-V-E. 4 letters. So
relax.
Live and relax. Oh my God. You know, I love that some people ask, they're like, what's the one thing, if you had one word that you needed to say to everybody, you know, for opera, and, you know, so we can get it together, blah, blah, blah. Just one word. Breathe. Oh my God, y'all. Just please breathe. Because the more oxygen you're getting in and out of your body, the more relaxed you become, and the easier your entire life will be. Don't forget to breathe. Be quiet and breathe. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's all it takes, you know, to sort of connect you back to yourself, you know, show yourself that you're not just a busybody worker bee that has to do this to live, and I've got to work to live, and blah, 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 blah. Breathe. Don't forget to be alive. Smell everything. Taste everything you can and touch it. You know what I mean? Awaken your senses with your breath. Please breathe. You know, breath is life, you know.
Yes.
Latonia, as we move to the end of this conversation, very unfortunately, I have to say, we would love to hear any future artistic plans you may have, and whether you're going to sing in Europe soon again, because you have left here the best impressions always. You have done so many great performances around Europe and the UK, and many friends have texted me, when is he going to do something here again? Please let us know.
Well, okay. So in this coming season, I'm singing a couple of productions at the Met if they go forward. We're in lots of union meetings now, so we're not sure yet. I mean, we're all hopeful that it is going forward. So we will be doing Porgy and Bess again in the fall, and also a new jazz or opera in jazz by Terrence Blanchard, Fire Shut Up in My Bones, which is opening night at the Met, and I'm singing the role of Billy, and it is a fantastic score, very off the beaten path, very different, you know what I mean, but very poignant and incredible. And in the springtime, I will be singing Cho-Cho-San in Dallas, Madam Butterfly, and AIDA in LA, and also Fire Shut Up in My Bones again in Chicago. And as far as other stuff in the future, we're working on things in Europe, you know, but I have a couple of interesting role debuts. One of them, I'll just say though, is I've always loved singing Mimi and La Bohème, and I never imagined that I'd be singing Musetta, but I will be singing Musetta at the Met coming up in a couple of years.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, because everybody's like, I don't get it. This is totally strange. But look, for me, when I first sang on stage, my role debut on stage was Despina in Così fan tutte. And I loved the comedy of it, but I don't get to do comedy. I do lots of, opera seria, you know what I mean? Like very serious opera. So I'm excited to do musetta because I think that sometimes musettas, they sound beautiful and there's only one idea about how to do the character, but I have a completely different idea. And it's going to be very funny and and exciting vocally, of course, to hear, Lirico Spinto sing musetta rather than the voice that you usually hear. So I'm very excited to sing that. But also Trovatore, I'm debuting this coming summer, actually next month, in the Glimmer Glass Festival, and also a couple of productions coming up soon. But in Europe, I mean, I guess I can't say where I'll be doing these things yet because you have to wait for the announcements. But I will be back to Europe soon, doing Tosca, doing Ballo and Maschera. So a couple of things coming up, but we're still working on it. But for sure.
You will be here and there. You will be everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the important news.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're really glad we got to talk to you and share this moment before you get too busy with all these exciting projects.
Oh, it's always my pleasure to talk. Y'all have no idea. When you asked me, I was like, yay! I'm hard to get a hold of, especially by email, because I'm never really checking it nearly often enough. But I love to talk, and I think it's very important for people to hear us speak and not just sing and not just perform, to see that, we're just kind of normal people underneath that have a lot to share. You know what I mean? So like anytime anybody's interested in my opinion and like how I started and stuff like that, I relish it. I love to share my life like that with people. So it was a huge pleasure for me.
Hear this world. Thank you very much. Gracing, you radiate grace and light. Thank you very much for gracing Prelude with your presence. And I have to tell that your personality addresses exactly to what we represent, because this is an educational series. It doesn't have to do only with the stardust of the profession, but also with the hardships, the requirements, how a personal life of an artist is, what is the truth of an artist. And you shared genuinely all this with us. And I think that the young singers must be very happy with it today. We are very happy. We are very, very grateful to you. And we are especially honored because this is the last Prelude for the season, the last interview. We did like 24 in less than 10 months with many acclaimed people. And we thank them all. And I think we had a very beautiful finale with you today. We will be in autumn, maybe September or October, the latest. And until then, we wish everybody to stay healthy, stay creative, stay optimistic. The world is going to go back to normal, and maybe it's going to be even better than it was before. We hold hands together and we send our love and our respect to all of you. So bye from Prelude, the Prelude team, Sunny Boy Dladla, AdE Creative Director, Ricardo Estrada, AdE Associate, and Joannis Giannopoulos, Opera Wire, 360 of Opera, Music Matters with Jason Trump. We have so many wonderful partners, and we thank them for their trust and their support in doing these interviews. And we will be soon again here on the screen of the Facebook Live. So lots of love to all of you. We will say goodbye with one more minute from this nominated with a Grammy performance from the Porgy, for those who missed it in the beginning.
Show the Grammy one last time.
And I would kindly ask you ladies not to leave from here to say goodbye after we hear the music. Ciao to the audience.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for your attendance.